Welcome back to AMP Business. The government says changes to KiwiSaver will focus on cutting the tax credit, while the $1,000 kickstart will stay. Contributions from businesses and employees will rise, but even so, overall savings will only increase marginally. Joining us to discuss the changes is financial commentator Bernard Hickey. Good morning, Bernard.
Good morning.
Given the indications that we've had, are we likely to see this tax credit cut in half, or perhaps only available to some people? Because it doesn't sound like it's going altogether.
Yes, the Prime Minister was cautious yesterday and didn't give the details. About $20 a week is what the government could cut. And the question is, are they going to halve it? Are they going to take it down to $5 or get rid of it altogether? I suspect politically it's going to be easier for them to reduce it. But it is quite a costly thing for the government. We're talking around about $1 billion a year for these various subsidies for KiwiSaver. But the savings they're going to make here, we're talking, less than a couple of $100 million. And the danger here is that it erodes confidence for many people who've put their money into KiwiSaver, about 1.7 million people. They now have $8 billion there. And the danger with these changes, continual changes and tinkering, is that people's confidence in the future will be affected. And this is the whole thing about savings. You're making a decision to consume in the future and not now. And when you change the arrangements around KiwiSaver continually, and this is the second of the big changes, then you erode people's confidence, and that's one of the dangers here.
And they're looking at changing it so that more of the contribution will come from employers and also those putting money into the scheme, the employees. Are businesses in a position where that is realistic at the moment?
Well, the Prime Minister said we won't do it until the economy is recovering.
But that could be some time.
It could be, that's right. And we've already had the contribution from employers drop from 4% to 2%. So an increase again back to 4%, which some commentators have talked about, would be quite a struggle for many employers. But remember, we've got to save more. The big picture here for the government is that we're running a deficit of close to 8% of GDP. In fact, this year we're going to borrow 10% of GDP. That's Irish Portuguese style borrowing. And unless we get this under control, we are going to, see our credit rating downgraded, and we're going to see interest costs for businesses and for consumers increase. So this is the thing for the government to think about. How do we improve our budget outlook, but also get people saving as well? Whereas these cuts, right off the bat, are saying to people, well, actually, we're going to sacrifice saving rather than spending. And this is the question for the government.
But the indication from the Treasury that the Prime Minister alluded to yesterday was that total savings still only increases marginally. So it's not going to be coming from the government coffers, it's going to be coming from private pockets. But the total figure doesn't change that much. So is this a focus on saving?
Well, this is the thing. The government is saying rightly that it doesn't make sense for us to borrow and then to pass it on to KiwiSaver fund managers, who in many cases will then invest it offshore. But the issue here is, do you want to build a savings culture in New Zealand? Now, when you're in government, you have choices about how you spend your money. You can choose to spend it on consumption or spend it on investing. And you could argue that spending on KiwiSaver is spending on investing. And this should be the last thing the government cuts. There should be other ways of spending that they should cut.
There are a whole lot of KiwiSaver providers in the market. With more uncertainty, changes to the way contributions are made, could we see more of them go?
Well, that's possible. There have been many people talk about consolidation in the KiwiSaver industry, and this pressure, if you like, this new change, again, increases the costs of administration. It's yet another change to your systems. So this may be a trigger for people to say, well, we tried, we weren't big enough or good enough, time to sell out. Now, we've already seen some consolidation with Hewlett go to another provider.
Indeed. Thank you, Bernard. That is Bernard Hickey, financial commentator. Now let's head to Jenny May for the headline.